welcome to another episode of Straight from the Desk. This time we will paint the black padded west. I think painting black is for a lot of people like a difficult topic because you either end up gray or it's not really contrasted enough. So I think you can also apply the techniques and the colors on other black materials. We didn't go like all the way contrast wise because we just want to suggest a matte material. So let's see how we achieve that and enjoy it. So for the padded west we've rearranged the palette. You can see we have some model color black, some model color dark sea blue, some ivory here, some schminke titanium white and some armor brown in the back of the palette. So we will start with mixing some of the black with dark sea blue. Okay. Okay, I will add some water here to the side of the mix to thin it down a little bit. And consistency wise I want to start with something like a light base tone. So you can see consistency wise it's still shining through a little bit, and we will apply that here. And make sure you really go with your brush all the way here into the recesses. And also in here. Okay, and while the lower side dries, we can just apply the same color here on the upper part. And you can see by using it slightly translucent, we already get like a nice indication for the highlights here. Okay, so we will let that dry and we'll be back for the highlights. Alright, now that the base color is dry, we can continue with our highlights. We will do them in like a classical layer and glaze approach, same as the shirt. So for the black cloth, it's important to not go too bright, otherwise we will just end up with just a grayish tone, and you don't really get that black feel. So what we will do here is we will mix some ivory with our base tone to get a highlight tone, and then just with a bit of the ivory in the brush we create like a darker gray mixed tone. Maybe a tiny bit more ivory. Okay, and we will start using the paint a little bit thicker. Something like a medium layer consistency, so it covers quite well. And we will just sketch in our highlights first. So You can see on the face we have that strong highlight running across the face here, and we want to continue that highlight also on the other part. So our light source is slightly from his right side, so that's also where we will start sketching in the stronger highlights. And we will use the same gray here on the top. And actually we have to make sure that the whole top here in the front is also brighter. It's the same that we did here on the armor plate, so really the faces that are showing up directly towards the light source also need to get a bit brighter. We will also continue here with those small wrinkles and some strong highlights. Okay, so I think that's good for like the first highlights. For the second one, we will mix here our two tones in the middle and use it also in the same consistency. Maybe it's a bit thinner. And we will use that tone here to just put our, like, it's like the second most strong highlight, so you use that tone to kind of like blend in between the strongest highlight tone and the other parts here. And yeah, you can see actually now with just the water in the back of the brush it actually turned more into a glaze. That is just perfect to soft things out. So you can see here, if I put it on my finger, it's more translucent than in... So you can see here on my finger, it's actually a little bit more translucent than we had it on the palette. Also the difference in tone is not all that strong, so it's it will lead to quite a fine result. And it's sometimes really surprising with just like those three shades that we have here on the west. We already get like quite a dramatic look on there. Dramatic black cloth. So up here we will increase the highlight a bit, so we get like more continuous flow of light, and we will do that with just a little bit more of the first highlight tone in there. And I'm using the color here now is like a medium glaze. And I'm always trying to just hit the upper edge of the wrinkle itself. more. Yeah, I think that is good. Okay, so I will just continue like that with the highlights. It's just placing the first highlights rather strong as a sketch, and then continuing with a glaze between the two tones to soften things out, and keeping the original base tone here as our shadows. So yeah, I will just continue like that, and we'll be back for like small additional highlights and also a different color in the shadows to make the material still look a bit more black. Okay. Okay, so you can see I continued softening out the highlights using glazes of the midtone, and I also increased the highlight here on the peak of that wrinkle. And what we'll do now is we will continue with some more detailed highlights, and we'll take some of our first highlight tone here and add a little bit of the ivory. Of the base tone. We need thicker consistency in paint and also a bit brighter paint. Okay, so consistency wise we're working with like a medium layer consistency, and I will use that here on that seam line, and I try just to hit the upper edge of it. Okay, a bit more ivory here for the top edge. Okay, nice. And then we need like a tone that is also brighter but not as bright and not as thick as the one before, so a little bit thinner. And you can see here on my finger the paint is covering actually still quite well, so this is why we're calling this consistency like a layer consistency. I will use that here just to increase the maximum highlight a little bit. Not on a very large area, just a few dots. Okay, I think that should be already okay. And we're using the first highlight tone here again, but as a very thin glaze. So you can see it's hardly visible here. And really one mistake that a lot of people do when they use glazes, they use a lot of the thin paint in the brush. But you can see here, we're using really just a little. So make sure you pick up just a little bit or wipe up the brush before you actually go to the model. And you can see a glaze should be really dry within a few seconds. And just that little bit of paint in the brush is also a lot more controllable. So you can see just one or two of these thin glazes really soft out the highlight. So I think for the highlight part, that's already it, but we will continue with a little bit of like shadow work, but we will do that introducing another tone. So we will use some of the Amo Brown, thin that down quite a bit, and add some black. And we will use that as a medium glaze. So introducing that tone will help us to bring the two parts here a little bit better together color-wise, and also increasing the contrast here on the black part and making it actually look a little bit more black again. And we'll use that here in the really strong shadow area. Also here in the crevices, and it will just give us like a slightly different tone in the shadows that will be hardly actually visible, but you can see that once we applied that here in the shadows, it will really increase the blackness of the material and also the overall contrast. Using it even a bit thinner here. Also in here. Okay, I think now the look is really really nice, and it's getting in a color-wise, it really works well together with the very bright armor, so that it has really like a lot to see here, and then it's a little bit more a place to rest for the eye. And we'll add some additional detail here on the buckles, and also paint these here with a little bit more contrast to not lose like the amount of detail completely. But yeah, we will just continue with the glazes of the shadow color also here on the upper part, and yeah, we'll be back once that step is completed. Okay, let's see how we tackle those small little buckles down here. And so here I've mixed like a little bit of the base color with some titanium white, and we'll put that here on the lower side of the buckle, then use a bit of our base tone and blend it together. Brighter again, also a bit thicker in consistency for the top highlights here. Oops, that was a little too white, so just taking some of the dark color. And with our highlight tone, we're also pulling the highlight down here. So here to the side. Remember that our light comes from that direction, so we can also highlight that edge. A bit more white here for the top. Okay. And yeah, we've used some strong tone here on these, and we will do it once again to gain a bit more definition here. Okay. Okay, I think I would add I would like to add just a tiny detail here, like a small, maybe a small arrow here that points in that direction to see like you can pull the handle, and we'll do that from like a beige gray mixed from Braxic 10, dark sea blue, and white and black. So a bit more gray than the color that we've used previously for the straps. Okay, and I will bring up the tone a bit using some ivory. Okay. Now with some of the base color from the west, I'm just correcting the outlines here. I think that's like a very nice little detail. Not something that is too strongly visible, but just to add like a tiny bit of additional information there. Okay, so I think that's it for the Padded West, and we continue with the next part. Okay, so I hope you like the black material here on the west. I think it turned out fantastic, like with the slight blue nuances contrasting the warmer red in the shadows, and yeah, I'm really interested to see also your test with those colors. So if you have anything, just hook me up with some pictures. All right, thank you.